Calls to Raise JobSeeker. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I thought we'd have a look at this article from news.com.au about increasing or calls to push the JobSeeker rate as Labor says people can't afford to live on $40 a day. Now here's the thing. We're going to see more and more of this. Calls to increase the JobSeeker or the dole rate. Now, fundamentally the question is, what is the purpose of this welfare? Now, a lot of people seem to think it's just the government putting money aside to take care of you when times get tough so you don't have to. Not really. No, it is an emergency payment to stop people from starving, committing crimes, winding up destitute. They will, if you have savings, they will make sure you burn through that to a certain point before you can even get this. It's not the government being friendly. It's mitigating crime. That's really what it is, mitigating desperation. If you think about how much money and taxation they take off you through your whole life, it'd be smarter if you could opt out of it. Because pretty much half of our tax goes to welfare, pension, the dole or job seeker, all of these things. What would it be if you could opt out? If you could say, you know what, I will pay half tax, but then I will relinquish my rights to any of these support mechanisms now until the end of my life. Do you think that would be possible? I mean, I know, come on, we're in a country where they don't even trust people to save, where they force you to put money into super. They would never allow us dumb plebs to have that much control over our lives. You can't have that. You need to, the government needs to slap you in the face, take the money from you, and then give it back to you, and you have to be thankful for it. It's all a theatre, guys. It's all a theatre. So Labor has reignited calls for the federal government to raise the job seeker rate. And the problem is, if you raise it too high, it disincentivizes people from working because people aren't stupid. You're not going to work 40 hours for only, what, in the end, $200 more in your pocket. You can't. Okay, people aren't that dumb. The push follows new forecasts that show the jobless rate peaking at 7.5% in the March quarter, when the JobKeeper wage subsidy and coronavirus supplements are scheduled to end. Okay, you don't address unemployment by increasing welfare. If you want to address unemployment, if you want to incentivize businesses to hire people, you need to step out of the way of businesses. The government needs to reduce the difficulties for people starting a business. The government needs to make it easier to hire and fire people. Yeah, I know it seems counterintuitive. Maybe we need to have some industrial relation reforms. I would advocate that we need to bring this legislation down to a much closer community-based level. It needs to be at the city-state level. Our government, our whole political system needs to be flipped. Brisbane should be allowed to set different minimum wage laws to other parts of the country. We need to have that flexibility. We need to create special economic zones so we can compete. But there's that word, that evil C word, competition. We can't have that when everyone gets a trophy these days. I mean, what's wrong with those suggestions? Opposition finance spokeswoman Katie Gallagher said it was not acceptable to expect people on the JobSeeker welfare payment to live on $40 a day again from April. There are 1.5 million people relying on that payment at the moment, she told ABC. This is not enough. The pandemic has shown us that. Well, I mean, it's not enough. It's not much. It's only meant to be a temporary measure. But the problem is you're getting so many people that are forced onto this that haven't been able to squirrel away any money to build a financial reserve or a buffer themselves. And the government, frankly, they're the ones that are forcing all these people out of their jobs. They're destroying these industries. They're destroying the small businesses that actually create the opportunities for people. And the scariest thing is, we could wind up with intergenerational poverty from this. We could really wind up with intergenerational poverty. That could mean, from one generation to another where you don't even have any role models of people who've actually worked. And then it becomes it may be quite difficult for people to appreciate it if you've been brought up. And this is where I would honestly say there is an element of privilege. Some people are privileged than others in that if you have role models, if you have, parents that have worked and that have got careers and you can role model on that. You've got a stability in your family upbringing. those are the privileges that you can have. And they make it, more inclined to find work, usually than when you don't have that environment or those situations. So say if you're brought up in a family where no one's ever worked. Do you think you're going to be, or even culturally, will it be acceptable to make the sacrifices that are necessary to work? There's a sense of entitlement in that culture where you don't realize what you have to sacrifice to work. And oh boy, the comments are going to get bombarded there. But it's true. Senator Gallagher said Labor had hoped the rate of JobSeeker would rise in Thursday's mid-year economic and fiscal outlook. She called on the government to use the unprecedented amounts of money being invested in the economy to make it better for everyone, including those on the lowest incomes. But Finance Minister Simon Birmingham said the government had allocated $3 billion to extend the JobSeeker supplement at a lower rate until March 31. We'll continue to monitor all these circumstances as we get closer to the end of March and work out the next step in relation to the different aspects of our support program, Senator Birmingham said. You know what they're going to do. They'll extend it, but they don't want to have a permanent increase. The risk, this isn't UBI, guys. I know there's people out there who are calling for a UBI, who want a UBI. It's never going to work. It will never work. They will never implement it. To make UBI work, you need to get every single Centrelink employee fired instantly and put on UBI. Can you see that happening? No. Then there'll be special interest groups that'll want their own version of UBI. UBI Plus, UBI this, UBI that, UBI special interest. It's dangerous. People need to work to appreciate what they receive, and it's an element of self-worth as well. If you get more and more people who don't have to work to achieve or to to even have the potential of bettering themselves, what's going to happen in the end? Then you get social unrest. So there's enormous budgetary implications in decisions. The Australian Council of Social Services CEO, Dr. Cassandra Goldie, said the government was threatening to withdraw the much-needed supports despite acknowledging the long, hard road ahead. The mid-year end of MIFO leaves millions in deep financial insecurity heading into 2021, she warned. The national unemployment rate dropped to 6.8% in November. And if we have a look here, let's look here, we'll bring up the JobSeeker. We can see right now we have about 1.5 million people on JobSeeker or New Start and JobSeeker, Youth Allowance, Other and Youth Allowance. And it's jumped up right there from those interventions. In the different states, right now, New South Wales is leading with 420,000. Victoria, 405,000. Queensland at 331,000. 153,000 in WA, 112,000 in SA, and 25,000 in NT. What do we have in Tassie? 36,000. Sorry, yep, 36,000. ACT is at 12. So, I mean, we're going to have more and more calls to increase the amount of job seeker, but I would argue, rather than doing that, you decrease the taxes, probably at a state level, that are going to affect the poorest more often. What about on certain goods and services? What about on petrol? So it's cheaper to get to work. What about on alcohol and cigarettes, which are luxury items that people use just to take the edge off? What do you reckon, though, everyone? Do you think they'll increase JobSeeker permanently? Would you like to see an increase with it? Or do you think there'll be calls in the next election for UBI coming out of the Greens and Labor will jump onto it? And how do you think that will position Australia compared to other countries in the rest of the world? I mean, $40 a day isn't much. And to be brutally honest, I've never been on JobSeeker or the dole in my life. I think I got youth allowance right back in the day when I first started university, before I did architecture. Because one of the advantages of the architecture degree I did, which is gone now, was that it was designed so you could work 4 days in an office and do 1 day at uni. It was fantastic. It means you could work while you studied. You got the best of both worlds. Sure, you didn't have a social life, and you only ever dated girls you met at architecture school, but at least you've got something in common. So let me know, what are your experiences? Should it be increased? Or is it really only just an emergency fund? Or are we moving to the point where it will eventually morph into a UBI? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from HeiseSays or Teespring, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.